All right, praying medic. See what he has to say.
Those of you following along at home, doing your own decodes, you can find Q posts on a number of different websites, including qanon.pub, qmap.pub, qalerts.app. If you have an Android device and you would like to get notifications when Q is posting, got a couple of options. QMap has an app, so does QAlerts. They actually have the regular version, which I think is like $1, and then there is also the QAlerts Lite, which is free. If you have an iPhone and you'd like to get
Let's go on here.
I'll let the public know about it. And all of this darkness is going to be exposed. It's all coming out. Drip, drip, drip. One day after another, it's coming out. Back in November of 2017, Q suggested that Hugh Hefner was actually a CIA operative and that his Playboy lifestyle was a cover story for a blackmail operation. In this post, there is a hint that Chuck Schumer, CS, is connected to George Soros, Playboy, Heidi Fleiss, and Heidi Fleiss. Clown is a euphemism for clowns in America or the CIA, and of course blackmail. So Q hasn't posted a whole lot more on that subject. Some politicians are controlled through blackmail. Other politicians are controlled by money. The John McCain Institute received a $1 million donation from Saudi Arabia. Money that is given to the nonprofit that are named after politicians. If the politician is going to use that money, it has to be carefully laundered. Nonprofit law restricts individuals from using nonprofit money for their own personal use. And that's actually a big problem that I think Bill and Hillary Clinton are going to run into, is investigators have said that Bill Clinton commingled Clinton Foundation money for his own personal use. Clinton Foundation has received millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, other countries. Other political figures have received money for positions on the board of directors for non-government organizations or as a CEO of shell companies. This is a post from Q from January of 2018. Loop Capital, not often mentioned, but Loop Capital is a Chicago investment firm, and Q has hinted that Loop Capital has been instrumental in helping launder money that is funneled to politicians. So we have this one, Slush Fund. Hussein, number one, $29 million from Singapore. We don't say his name, that's John McCain. $19 million, Singapore. Hillary and Bill Clinton, $15 million, Banco de Mexico. Nancy Pelosi, $8 million, Deutsche Bank. On and on, follow the money. So there's a strong suggestion from
Nancy Pelosi, too. Wow.
Q that a lot of these political figures are being paid for their political services in various ways. Sometimes payment for political services rendered is disguised as a book deal. Under Donald Trump, America was no longer for sale. You are witnessing the largest organized disinformation campaign to ever be perpetrated on the public. This is the mainstream media and political campaign. Trust yourself. Be free in your thoughts. Great awakening. In December, Q informed us that our government had been infiltrated with corrupt people and that a deep cleaning was underway to remove and replace them. This was a post from December 18th. Fired or forced, all the people we can list at the FBI, deep, plus sleepers. Backgrounds are important. Top assistant. According to what I've been seeing in the newspapers, these two have been told to go in and clean the swamp in the ODNI, so that'll be going on. And then we've got Johnny McEntee, who took over the Presidential Office of Personnel. He'll be identifying more people that need to be removed. So we're making some progress. And Politico recently wrote an article about Kash Patel coming in, working with November. Again, not another four-year election. There's a lot at stake. All right. So I'm just working my way down through this post. Obviously, what must be done first before justice and arrests happen? Well, you have to get rid of the corrupt people, and there's a lot of them. And if you are the person who's waiting for arrests to happen, that's like going to a big banquet and just waiting for the ice cream. Ice cream comes at the end of the night. Everything else comes first. If you want your dessert first, you're not going to get your dessert first. You're going to have to assumptions about the Senate Intel Committee and the House Intel Committee were correct, that the package was received, and I suspect that the information in there was known. To who, I'm not sure, but I think that's what this line means. I talked with Nate about this. Might be connected to Islam. It's difficult to say if former CIA Director John Brennan is a Muslim. A lot of people say that he is. I have not found anything conclusive that says that he is a Muslim. However, he definitely has an affinity for Islam. There's all kinds of stories out there. American except a handful. Clearing that up and trying to get the world to focus on insurgencies in other countries.
Be told here, but we have what we call citizen journalists. Okay? Because the journalists that we have in our media did a disservice to themselves, actually more than they did to this country. They did a disservice to themselves because they displayed an arrogance that is unprecedented. And so the American people decided to take over the idea of information. They took over the idea of information, and they did it through social media. How many of you know about Periscope? Okay. Raise your hands up. It's okay to raise your hands. I'm not going to ask you that question. I'm not going to give you a test question. Yeah, okay, good, good. Periscope. I didn't know about Periscope till a few months ago. I didn't know about it. I watched one individual, who will be nameless here, but one individual who has 650,000 followers just on Twitter, which really these days doesn't seem like a lot, but it's a lot. It's enough. This individual is a huge influencer. So we title him as an influencer. Okay? So he puts out a tweet to his 650,000 followers and says, I'm going to be on Periscope doing a live media broadcast in 15 minutes. 15 minutes. 35 million people viewed that. 35 million. Because everybody said, hey, because the guy's great. He's great. When he talks, he's out there. And he's an American patriot. He's an American patriot. So when we talk about patriotism, how do we fight as patriots today? We fight at the voting booth. We fight in our schools. You know, in the military, when you're a young officer or sergeant, corporal, private, you know, we almost demand those individuals to demonstrate physical courage, to be fearless, demonstrate physical courage. Why? We want them to do it on the physical exercise field. We want them to do it in the very physical demanding extremes that we put them through on training, because we want them to demonstrate physical courage in the face of all odds on the battlefield. The more senior that you get, and I learned this, but actually I completely believe the opposite now for our younger generation. And it's the older you get in the military, we sort of begin to change that physical courage to what I call intellectual courage. And intellectual courage actually takes more bravery at times. Takes more bravery at times. Because to be intellectually courageous, and this is for you, this is really for this foundation, this is for the young people in this room, you are demonstrating a level of intellectual courage that our country desperately needs.
Well,
One of the reasons why I am so active on Twitter and YouTube is I do consider myself to be a digital soldier. And we all have the ability to influence the narrative, to help spread the truth, if we're willing to take a little courage and bravery and go out there on social media and spread the message.
So true. Let's move on here. So much time.
If he does not end up getting charged with anything criminally, he may stick around that long, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. Q responded to that post with "The silent war continues." And I would draw your attention to the fact that there are 2 periods on the end of the silent war. So I've been looking at the ellipses at the end of the previous post by Q about the silent war, and I want to show you something interesting. Q ended this post with "The silent war continues," and there are 5 dots in the ellipsis. On February 8th, Q posted again this post. It ended with "The silent war continues." There are 4 dots in the ellipsis. On February 12th, Q posted again, and this post has 3 dots in the ellipsis. And the one yesterday that Q posted has a 2-dot ellipsis. So we've got a countdown. We've got 5, 4, 3, 2. If I'm correct, this looks like a countdown. We should be seeing a post at some point in the future that says "The silent war continues" and only has a period at the end. And what that is going to signify, I don't know. But I do think we're in the middle of a countdown. All right, so 1 year ago yesterday, Q asked who would fall after Harvey Weinstein. This is a post, a couple of tweets by Patton Oswalt bragging about how proud he is to be a pedophile. And Q wrote, "Who will be next to fall post Weinstein? Big name coming. Nobody is safe." Well, that was on February 25th. All right. Harvey Weinstein was convicted on the 24th. So Q reposted that drop and said, "Now isn't that interesting that Bob Iger, the CEO of Disney, steps down the day after Harvey Weinstein was convicted of rape?" Future proofs past? Maybe. I wanted to mention something about this post. The file name of this image is D0RYDDVWKA6E61QQ. This could be a randomly generated file name, but it's interesting to me that it begins with what is essentially Dory. And of course, Dory is the name of a fish, and that character the voice was Ellen DeGeneres. Is Q calling his shot and telling us who is going to be next? I don't know. I did have a dream about Ellen DeGeneres probably a year and a half ago. If I remember correctly, the dream, she had suddenly announced that she was done with showbiz. I'll look up that dream, and if I'm not correct on that, I'll give you an update on it in the next video. Speaking of resignations, CEO of MasterCard resigned yesterday. Ajay Banga stepped down. Also, Salesforce CEO Keith Block resigned today. Salesforce is a cloud computing service that grew pretty quickly under Block's leadership. They had $4 billion in sales in 2013, and I think they had $17 billion in sales last year, but he is stepping down. All right, yesterday, the Senate failed to pass a bill that would require medical care to be provided to babies that survive an abortion. Q posted a link to that article and said these people are sick.
All right, repeating stuff here. Let's move on. This again is coming out.
And 3, then out of the smoke came locusts upon the earth. Power was given to them as the scorpions of the earth have power. Saudi Arabia. So there's this video of all these birds in Saudi Arabia. These are sort of like, I guess, biblical plagues. And he did a thread with all these strange locusts and birds and various things all over different parts of the world. Q reposted his tweet, and
We've seen this before. Let's move on.
human trafficking and corruption. Since then, thousands of CEOs have resigned from their positions. Actually, Eric Schmidt resigned when he saw that in this post because he had some information nobody else had. And I'm going to let you listen to the first part of this interview where Nate talks about how the Obama administration enabled Muslim Brotherhood and destroyed records of Muslims who had terrorist ties.
When it comes to Mr. Haney, I'd love to just hear your thoughts on the whole situation, his work, the circumstances surrounding his death, and if you have any theories about, motive, or if this is just a tragic accident somehow.
I don't believe it's an accident. I don't believe he killed himself. To me, I don't care what they say. This is a murder. It's plain and simple. This guy he was getting married, I think, next month. He was in the process of, getting another book, writing another book. He was a devout Christian. From everything that I've heard, there's no reason why he would kill himself. And as far as I know, he didn't leave a note. He didn't, give any indication or anything like that. So it just doesn't make any sense. I think it's pretty obvious that he was murdered. And it's funny because I posted a link this morning to, I think it was CBS Local. They had the sheriff's department on there, and the sheriffs were backtracking their initial, claim that this was a suicide, and they were saying, we just want to be clear, we have not determined that it's a suicide, and we treat every death as as a homicide. And and he said that they were still investigating. I think they're supposed to have an autopsy tomorrow. But he was working on some stuff. The stuff that he exposed had to do with corruption within within the FBI, and it had to do with what had gone on with the Obama administration when they came in and basically deleting records out of their database of Muslims that had terrorist ties. And to me, it could have been something as simple as they were trying to, improve the image, of American Muslim relations or whatever. But the bottom line is this intel that they deleted was directly, supported that it wasn't just, random Muslims. These were Muslims specifically with terrorist ties.
That information goes along with what we've been talking about regarding the insurgency, where it looks like the Obama administration was cooperating with Muslim Brotherhood. And in this next video, Nate explained that although he had never said publicly his whistleblower complaint was related to the Muslim Brotherhood, in fact, some of the documents he turned over discussed the Muslim Brotherhood. He wondered if Q knew about the contents of his classified disclosure.
And there was an interesting aspect to it in that Phil, he went into a lot of exposing our government's interactions with the Muslim Brotherhood. And that's interesting because there was a, as you know, I'm sure, and everybody on this channel probably knows, there was a Q post last night of my interview. And in that Q post, Q mentions Muslim Brotherhood. So I have never shared publicly that any of the information that I handed over mentioned the Muslim Brotherhood or had the Muslim Brotherhood in it. But in fact, there were documents that were directly related to things involving the Muslim Brotherhood. So
that was part of your that was part of your initial whistleblowing, part of the things that you brought to
yes.
The intelligence committees and everything. It was that, and then seeing that on the Q board, your ears perked up. Is that the first time you pay attention to that board?
I've looked at it before. I mean, I've been, I think, on there, 3 or 4 times or something like that my name's been posted on there. So you know, whenever it gets posted on there, I get a whole bunch of people hitting me up saying Q sent me, and you know, and
I've
people
seen
will
that.
send me links. People will send me links to it, you know. So of course I'm going to go look and see, you know, what is this they're talking about, and you know, and a lot of it, you know, is very cryptic, and I don't know, you know, I don't know what it means, and for a long time I kind of just thought it was a, you know, like a LARP or something like that, but I've come around to believing that, you know, that there is something to it, especially since the Q post seemed to indicate information that I hadn't shared publicly.
In this next section, Nate explains that he thinks U.S. Attorney John Durham may have received the information that he turned over.
The last thing that was said was package received, and so, you know, I'm hoping that that's indicative that, you know, that the right people have this information and are doing something about it. There was a story that came out, I want to say it was like 2 weeks ago, I think, Sarah Carter story, but she mentioned that John Durham had gone to meet with I.G. Horowitz and received a trove of documents that were internal to the FBI, and in that there was a lot of financial data in there, and so I'm wondering if the documents that I handed over have been put in the hands of Durham. I suspect they probably have.
Oh, that would be tremendous.
Well, so if he's investigating, right, you know, the origin of the Trump-Russia collusion, you know, eventually that's going to lead to trying to discover what was the motive, you know, for them to do this. And I think the motive was they needed to cover up the cover-up. And so eventually it's going to lead back to what were they trying to hide by creating this great distraction. And what they were trying to hide, I think, was that they had covered up all these crimes committed by, you know, various powerful people, including the Clintons and the Clinton Foundation.
If you'd like to listen to the full interview, it's on YouTube. Whistleblower Roulette, featuring Nate Kane and Jeffrey Peterson. That is on Political Orgies YouTube channel. Very insightful interview.
We'll let it go at that, and we'll see how well this is going to record. Boy, it's just a matter of time. This is all building. And when it starts to blow, and these get into real investigation and real trials, it's going to be massive. Swatch Mark from Billings, Montana. Good day.